Good morning, everybody. Wow, you guys must have wanted that yogurt or something. How many of you work at either companies or government or offices or NGOs where you currently have a job opening? Like, raise your hands high. Excellent. So that's good. So I did that in front of an audience recently of 3,000 people. We had the Chancellor of UC Irvine, we had a Minister of Education from another country, we had the CEO of Blackboard on the panel. And I asked the same question, and nearly 3,000 hands went up. So what is not working? If there are that many hands up, and frankly, while the unemployment figure has come down, one of the factors out there, which is really interesting, is that the economy has not produced as many high-paying, even medium-paying jobs. So why is the churn not working? Eric?
Well, I think the churn has always been there, right? People go to jobs and move around.
But that's a lot of availability.
That's a good thing. There's been 60 months of job growth. There's 12 million new jobs. There's over 5 million new jobs.
Are you looking for a new job?
Not yet. Not yet. After this, I might be. But there's always churn in the economy. People moving around. Younger people moving from job to job. We're hiring, aging workforce that's moving out. So there's always going to be churn and openings and opportunity for people. And I think our role is to make sure that there's some sort of infrastructure in place that can help people transition to jobs, whether they slide over laterally to a job or preferably move up the career ladder to success.
But there seems to be, when people zero in on what they call the skills gap, that there seems to be some bridge that is hard to surmount in getting a pool of talent out there either matched correctly or at least upskilled in a way that they can fit there. So how are you changing at the Department of Labor that skills gap challenge?
Well, I think that's a question. I think it's an opportunity gap and it's a skills gap too. But, education has changed over the last 25, 30 years in this country. It's a lot more about skills and competencies, not just about degrees. Degrees are important, of course, but it's also about skills and competencies and what employers want. And the hard thing, I think, the challenge for us is to identify exactly what the skills and credential and education needs our employers and then target our programs directly to what those needs are our employers. The Obama administration has done this job ribbon strategy that the Vice President has worked on. And at the center of that is sort of regional partnerships, working with multiple employer stakeholders, and identifying really precisely what their skills and credential needs are, and then crafting programs, whether it's community colleges, labor training, local school system, developing some sort of career pathways to get people directly connected into those needs of the employers. I mean, for so long in this country, as the Secretary will say, we train people and then pray they got a job. Now we're it's very much a supply-demand equation, figuring out what that demand is as precise as we can. That will help with the skills gap, and certainly, there's also the opportunity issue, right? You need access to education, you need access to training, and they need access to whether it's counseling or online tools or whatever to make sure correct and appropriate choices for careers.
Susan, you have written a lot. I mean, I read all of Susan's reports, and sometimes they're scary. But you've written a lot about the skills gap and what can be done, particularly given the IT arena we have. How does you look at overcoming this gap? Is it something that's going to solve itself, that LinkedIn is just going to be the place to fix all these things?
No, it's not going to solve itself. I would love LinkedIn to fix some of the problems, but it's not going to happen. And I think we should take a step back. So churn in the U.S. labor force is good. We call it labor market mobility. And it won't make the U.S. very dynamic. You can leave a job if you don't feel like you're going to get another one. So the fact that there are job openings is actually something that's very good and different from what you see in, say, Germany or Japan or large swaths of Europe. Now the problem today is...
Wait, I don't understand that point. What's different about Germany and...
People take a job and never leave. And now what's happened is a two-tier workforce where older people that have a job never leave. Young
How about France? I got a French economist over there, so...
all right.
So let's hit the French.
Okay. In France, this year, I read this in the FT, so I'll be happy to be corrected, 2/3 of new employment contracts were for 1 year or less. So what that tells you is very few companies are offering permanent full-time jobs with benefits. People that have those jobs literally can't be fired. I was with a CEO group of largely American, but some European CEOs talking about hiring in France, and they were joking. They said, it's like getting married. And we said, no, it's more permanent.
Wow.
So back to this, it's their job. Now, it's a bad thing if employers can't find the people they need and people can't find the job openings. And there's definitely, we think, some of that going on in the U.S. today.
So if I were a young person today, I mean, I've got the coolest job, because as you said, I get to interview everyone, and I think it was Eduardo Padron, is that right? Eduardo, is he the head of Miami-Dade College? Is one of the biggest colleges. It's like, it's sort of got a zillion people coming in and out every day. What's interesting is he focuses a lot on this question of what employment is out there, how to get his students and those coming in for whatever kind of program or credentialing program connected. They're working on what we used to call vocational opportunities, apprenticeships. They're working on apprenticeships and getting them guided. And I was interested that Hillary Clinton came out, and the first sort of economic proposal she's come out with of any detail is on an apprenticeship program on things. And so I'm finding those sorts of things happening, and I assume they're happening because there's some gap in our own planning, that we've got a lot of people graduating from college who don't necessarily want to work, in manufacturing. But tell me where I'm wrong.
Graduating college is not the only pathway to middle-class job.
That's right.
And I think what you're seeing out here is career technical education, not vocational education.
Yeah, career technical education. Teach me.
Yeah, and it's if you're teaching. So we'll go. Well, this is like, it's not your father's vocational training, right? It is modern. It is focused on career competency outcomes and educational training. But a lot of this, is born out of necessity. So now in career technical education, starting in 9 through 12, and articulating through community colleges, and even articulating the 4 years is a very important strategy. How do you line up those pathways, those credentials? They're stackable credentials, stackable pathways that are all recognizable as you articulate through the system. And that's true whether you grow up in a rural area of Oklahoma, or you grow up here in D.C., or you grow up out in Fairfax County, Virginia, right? There should be universal articulate pathways. More importantly, I think, and while the conversation is about apprenticeship, and just let me take a moment to thank CBS for sponsoring it, because they're a great leader in the apprenticeship movement across the country, everywhere they are. And registered apprenticeship stands for rigorous standards and quality. It is an articulated set of standards. The labor unions have been doing this for 80 years in this country and have done a fabulous job. They've figured out how to organize employers, how to develop training programs, get a pipeline of workers through to meet the employer needs. Has worked very well for labor, but it can work outside of those contexts too. It can be in construction and building trade. And the data is incontrovertible on apprenticeships, right? More people complete apprenticeships than complete community colleges, about as many complete apprenticeships that complete four-year universities. So apprenticeships work, average wages of $50,000 per year, a ticket to the middle class, as Secretary Perez would say, it's the other college, except without the debt. And so the earn and learn strategy, working and learning on the job training with related technical instruction in a community college or with a union program or with another training provider works, and the data will prove that it works. So I think that is it's been undervalued and underused in this country for such a long time. The president asked us development up
So there's actually a plan to double the number of.
There's a strategy. We at the Department of Labor have been working on it. And, we'll be happy to know that next week is the first ever presidentially proclaimed National Apprenticeship Week, November 2nd through.
Wow. Susan, before you jump in here, I want Ed Eric to kind of walk us through how this looks, because while I think everything you said sounds good, I just don't know. If I'm a student and I'm in career technical program at Miami-Dade College, how does it work? And whether it's a CBS thing or it's some other opportunity out there, how do I get attached? And why would I get attached? What is the kind of human process that someone goes through to become an apprentice?
So there's various ways to do that, right?
What does it feel like?
On-ramps and off-ramps to do that. It could be.
Do I get a degree?
You get a credential or a set of credentials that lead to some sort of certification or credential in your field. So you want to be a radiological technologist.
I do.
You want to be a pharmacy technician.
I could do that too.
You know, you could find out through the company. So when you go to CVS and you start working there, they may tell you, we have an apprenticeship program. We like the way you started off in this company. We want to bring you into that apprenticeship program and be a pharmacy tech. You could be a counselor at one of the nation's 2,500 one-stop career centers around the country. You could be a community college counselor. You could go to an employer who's a member of a labor union and say, you know what, we like you. We want to put you through our pipe fitting classes. Or, you know, there's in Philadelphia, there's a high school program that screens young people in high schools to an IT apprenticeship program, where they then do the on-the-job training fixing the school system's computers. And that is an apprenticeship program that then articulates to a credential or degree. They don't have to be 4 or 5 years long. They can be 1 or 2 years long. But it's on-the-job training with related technical instruction. You sort of start at a lower wage, but you're working and earning money. And as your skills increase and your credentials increase, you'll earn more money over time.
And are those portable credentials?
Absolutely, portable credentials in almost all places. Not always, the states have certain requirements, but many of them are national credentials where you can go all across the country to do some of those.
Susan, what do you think about apprenticeships?
I think apprenticeships are great, but I think we need them at scale. Now I'll be the economist.
What
I'm
is
an
scale?
economist, and I'm going to bring some of the dismal experience here. All of this sounds great, but the problem is not enough Americans have access to this. There are great examples in Miami-Dade College. There's IBM work with the city of New York to develop a 6-year program for coders. There are all sorts of individual fantastic examples of pathways to careers in education and credentials that don't involve college and $1 trillion of student debt. But the problem is this country has nearly 7 million young people that we call the NEETs. They are not in education, employment, or training. They're
Not in?
Not in education, employment, or training, so
Okay.
in EET.
So they're sort of free agents.
And they are doing, you know, Lord knows what. So we need to reach that population.
7 million?
7 million. When you look at the unemployment rate.
And what age level?
Those are 16 to 25, 7 million NEETs, okay? When you look at the unemployment rate, you look at the headline figure of 5.1%, you say, yes, the U.S. is back to something around full employment, but break that down. College graduate unemployment rate is in the 2 to 3% range. People with a high school degree or less, their unemployment rate is still double digits. Young people, minorities. So the fact is this average is masking a whole segment of people that are privileged. So I love the idea of apprenticeships, credentials, and all this, but the challenge for the U.S. is now to really roll this out at scale across the country.
I couldn't agree more, and that's why we just invested $175 million in 46 sites across the country just 2 weeks ago. It was announced by the president. So, you know, we're investing in sites, we're investing in innovation, experimentation with this to try to get it to scale. Less than 1% of our working population is involved in apprenticeship.
The government can't hire all those people, but you can teach, you can model, you can seduce companies.
There are partnerships all over the country between employers or employer associations, between community colleges, workforce boards,
Right.
high schools, in which they're working together, typically at a regional level. I find that to be a very powerful way to do this, but sometimes at a national level. UPS is training drivers in apprenticeship all over the country, but typically this is regional work where these parties come together and try to drive it. So we have less than 1% of our American workers in apprenticeship programs, as opposed to Switzerland and Germany that have closer to 25, 26, 27%. Our average age for apprenticeships in this country is 27 to 28 years old. In Europe, it's 17 and 18, where employers are engaged in the high school, part of the high school system. They don't wait until people complete education and then say, now we're going to work with them. They get engaged in the secondary system to offer apprenticeships and bring them in. If it's good for their company, it's good for the industry sector, it's good for their country.
You know, I recently interviewed Martha McSally, who's a representative in Congress from Arizona, and she's passed legislation that encourages the hiring of veterans that have come back from service for border agencies. Says, you know, they have clearances, they have skills that fit. But when you kind of dig into the veterans employment thing, it's actually pretty miserable for a lot of them. That there is a problem of credentialing the skills, the leadership, the things they've done and served. And it sounds like to me the military is a big apprenticeship program. So why, am I wrong? There are aspects of it you're learning, to drive massive trucks. You're learning to use various kinds of equipment in various ways. But for some reason, those skills aren't necessarily automatically easily transferring over. Is that a credentialing problem?
Well, so it is somewhat of a credentialing problem, but there's a lot of work going on in that area right now. And folks have been looking at, if you've been in the medical services in the military, how can you translate that here, different state rules, different state laws. There's been a lot of work in trying to even the playing field for that for better. There's tons of services out there for veterans throughout our one-stop employment system, our nation's one-stop centers, but also various other programs and communities. I think the interesting thing that you mentioned apprenticeships in the military is 80,000 registered U.S. Department of Labor apprenticeships are in the military services.
Interesting, really.
So they're getting registered apprenticeship credentials while they're in the military that can translate here. And if you're a veteran and you get involved in a registered apprenticeship program, once you get released, it also adds to your GI bill with almost $1,000 extra in expenses a month. So there are opportunities out there in our services for veterans, but it is a challenge still. It will be, particularly with the high numbers that are coming out into our community.
Susan, the CEO of LinkedIn, Jeff Weiner, is focusing on the way in which that platform is created. We've heard a lot about these platforms can become middle skills oriented as well. That middle skilled folks can both broadcast in very unique ways. They can put videos up. They can show various things they've made or built, processes that come in. And he's trying to work with mayors of cities. So Phoenix and Denver are the first two to sort of look at what they can do, maybe with needs, but also middle skilled people that are having some labor mobility challenges. And then he's targeting some cities like Detroit to try to get some of those skills gaps in. What are your views or what insights would you have for that kind of process?
I think there's a huge amount of optimism around what technology can do. The labor market has long been filled with a lot of problems with information. How do people signal to an employer what they can do? How do employers define what they're looking for? And a platform like LinkedIn today, it's got 380 million people worldwide put their resumes on this. So you can now have this vast amount of data on what are people's career paths. If you go to this school with this degree, where do you actually end up? It's just generating huge amounts of transparency on what do different career paths look like, how do people get into them. In the US, right now, 1 out of every 2 working age Americans has a profile on LinkedIn. Now they're talking about reaching out into, okay, it started out as professionals, probably everyone in this room has a LinkedIn profile, but how do we move, to people not in this room, getting them on? And this is where the Denver and Phoenix pilots are coming in. So they're working with employers in those cities, with educators, and with Department of Labor and local and county labor agencies to bring the three together to say what job opportunities are there, what skills do people need, and then how can we reach that target population to get them. They've done it on a smaller scale in New York City. It was really interesting. As everyone probably knows, New York City has been actively trying to develop a startup and tech sector in New York City. And one of the things they did was go to LinkedIn to say, if we want to have a startup community, we know that we need software coders and developers. Can you look at LinkedIn members in New York City and identify what we're missing? And they identified various very specific coding and technical skills that were missing, and then the city went to the community colleges and said, okay, we're going to subsidize and give scholarships for people to get these specific degrees, and they've done it. So it's a very targeted way of looking at what's missing at a very local level, now that we've got reams of data on what's actually out there.
On the economy, and I am interested in this data on job growth in the U.S. and the fact that it's rebounded back. Does it worry you that when you look at the pay levels that we haven't replaced 1 million high-paying jobs that were lost in 2008, and the median-paying jobs 1 million, it's sort of 2 million jobs short of regularly paying jobs, and we're turning out really incredible numbers of the lowest, pizza delivery. And is that something we should be worried about, Susan?
We should be, well, I'm not sure we should be worried. We should be thinking about what are we going to do about it, because this process of the hollowing out.
There's the job question, and the question is, are you going to be compensated in a way that you've got to track to a genuine middle-class life, or is that just becoming more and more of a sort of fool's dream?
I hope it's not a fool's dream, but we have been
If you're
through.
McKinsey, you know the truth. Is it?
I'm not sure. No, I'm also an optimist. You probably know this by now. We've been through a process where technology has automated and replaced a lot of what used to be middle class, middle skill jobs. And technology continues to march on. Now a lot of legal type activity can take place through searches, right? Automation is going to continue, but at the same time, there are new opportunities when, okay, my two grandfathers were a miner and a farmer. Like, they would look at what I do or what you do, and they wouldn't even call this a job, right? So it's hard to say what the jobs of the future will look like.
Fully replaceable by a robot. There will be a robot interviewer one day.
Nobody would call this work, so we don't know what the future's going to be.
But the labor market always churns and goes through cycles and changes over time. And look, the effects of the recession in 2008 have changed things dramatically. And the good news about technology is it creates other opportunities, right? Where tower climbers used to go up radio towers to install things and do things.
Right.
They're now climbing those towers, and there are apprenticeship programs on this, by the way, where they're putting wireless transferring devices, right? Because of the explosion of wireless all over. So technology is creating other opportunities. It's changing things. I don't remember the last time you went to get a video from your local video store, probably many years ago, right? So different things are happening. And it creates other opportunities. And that's why it's really important that we in the workforce world, that this becomes an employer-driven, business-driven approach, because we have to we can't go out and create workforce programs because it sounds like a good idea. We have to create them because very specifically what the employer needs. And if we can identify that, what are the career pathways and the wages that get people there, we can then target and directly fill some of these good high-paying jobs that we lost during the recession and coming back in a different form. But it's always changing.
I want to go to the audience in a minute for your questions and comments, and some of you have many direct experiences in this. The other, one of my pals in this question of workforce is a guy named Eric Spiegel at Siemens. And Siemens I got him together with Mary Kay Henry of SEIU once, and he works at a German company, he was going apprenticeship, but the kind of apprenticeships that Siemens is talking about, they've been sort of plotting, these big in-kind contributions of software into states and combining with workforce programs and community colleges and bringing in the private sector, particularly manufacturing and design, to sort of work together. And it's interesting. But those apprenticeships are not low-tech apprenticeships. They're high-tech apprenticeships. And when you begin looking at the content of the jobs they're talking about, they're not yesterday's jobs. These are like super empowered labor in the building highways or building things. And so I'm interested in whether there's an interesting generational shift. So when we talk about job training, tell me about the upskills dynamic that's going on, because when you think about retrofitting tomorrow's cities and just changing infrastructure in this country, it's not going to just be laying roads.
Right, so let's use Siemens as an example in North Carolina. So they're doing some very sophisticated advanced manufacturing down there, and they're not getting the workers they needed from the local school system and the community college. So they organize themselves with their supply chain and 13, 14, 15 other employers to do an apprenticeship around the Charlotte region with their companies. They're German companies, so they have some of that culture of apprenticeship, but they brought in all the right partners with Piedmont Community College, with the local workforce system and all that, and they've articulated a very specific set of skills. And they can take young people out of high school and put them through that and train them very precisely for the skills.
And is it working?
It is working. And the companies would say it's working, and that's employee retention, employee skills, and they overtrain. And why do they overtrain? Because a lot of companies say, what if I train people and they leave and they go to other companies? Well, they think it's a good thing down there. They're overtraining for their industry. It's good for their industry. It's good for that community of manufacturers that are down there in advanced manufacturing. And again, it's good for the country because you have trained, credentialed manufacturing people out there that are part of it. So, and the students or apprenticeships don't have to stay there, right? They can go on to University of North Carolina and get an engineering degree. They can continue to do things. It's not a dead end. It's part of the pathway for that. So, different companies are coming together, different strategies are being used, and I think some of the economic issues we bring up are driving innovation to get these. It's happening in the IT space, right, with the coding industry right now. There's almost 600,000 open IT jobs today, and so you'll be hearing about it later on with some of your other speakers about what are the creative and interesting things going on in IT and the education and training space to keep up with this.
Susie, thoughts on this?
I think it is complicated. I think the great thing about Clemons is it shows companies need to really get active. It's not enough to say we can't fill positions, what are we going to do? The American education system doesn't work. I mean, companies have to rethink their business model, and it's happening. At Clemons, there are coding boot camps. There's a program out in California called Year Up that's creating software engineers with at-risk youth. But all of this, I'll just say it one last time, it needs to happen at scale. It's great that we have this diverse country with lots of local programs, but we need to organize.
So you're saying the Department of Labor is not doing what it should be doing?
I did not say that.
Walk up the hill and advocate to create more funding.
There you go.
Let me take some comments from the audience. It's right up here in front. We've got a microphone running to you. With lots of folks watching you online. So go ahead, right behind you. Tell us who you are.
I'm Ibrahim Mukman. I'm an economic development consultant here in Washington, D.C. There's a constituency that we haven't talked about. All of the experts have told us recently that the United States incarcerates more people than probably any other Western country. Recently, the president released a lot of them, but they're coming home. But over the last couple of decades, all of the training programs in prisons were abolished. So these people are coming home with no skills and no expertise. And so what's the plan for them? Or do they go back to doing what they did to get in jail in the first place? Or we don't have a problem?
Great.
So I spent 25 years in that business. Look, you got 650,000, 700,000 people getting released from state and federal prisons. You have 9, 10, 11 million people going in and out of the nation's county and city jails. So the numbers are huge. It's not just state and federal prisoners, it's what's happening in communities every day. Certainly these 6,000 people, the door's not going to open, give them a bus ticket and go home, although that does happen every day in this country. We're trying to align the nation's workforce system with the nation's correction system. So we're starting that work behind the fence, behind the wall before they get out. Not all training programs have been abolished. The Department of Ed just announced experimental sites using Pell Grants to fund correctional education and training programs behind the fence and behind the wall. So that used to be very big in the 80s and 90s. It got taken away. Now the opportunity's coming back again. There's a lot of sophisticated entry programs going on across the country, but it is a matter of scale, right? It's a matter of culture of all communities sort of understanding this. But the programs we've been talking about today, you can have a public policy framework that addresses, biotech, cybersecurity, high-tech workers. You can have a framework that impacts or addresses the needs of transitioning or incarcerated returning citizens or ex-offenders. So, communities have to come together to do that.
I didn't know we had abolished training programs. It's very interesting comment.
But they haven't all been abolished.
Well, they have all been abolished. During the last couple of administrations, this so-called punitive attitude of thought about Congress was we want to punish these people. We don't want them getting training and stuff. And we've got to change that narrative.
Right. That's it. Susie?
I couldn't agree more. It's a tragedy on a human level, a social level, and an economic level. I mean, we talk about human capital, and we have people sitting behind bars that could be getting skills and education that are not. And then they're released, and it's very difficult for them to get jobs. It's a cycle that should be addressed.
Great question, right here. Yeah, we got a microphone.
Mark Turner, Fellow Interactivity Foundation. So let me see, I'd just like to see if I can change the focus or shift the focus just a bit, because we talk about employers who are supposed to be creating jobs for workers or employees. And so that's supposed to be some part of the social contract. But really what you have are people who have businesses, companies, shops, enterprises. And what they are doing are producing goods and services to sell to other people. And my own sense is that if they can do that without employees, without workers, that's a huge success for them. That their job, as it were, if you think of them as employers, and we say, well, they're not creating enough jobs, and you think, well, my God, they're failing. But if you think of them as people who have businesses and shops, and they're trying to sell stuff and make money, if they can do that without employees, well, that's great. Advance in efficiency. So it seems as if somehow we have things going across.
I think, Mark, you have both in the system. I think a very rich and healthy system is going to have a diversity of formats, but what we've seen traditionally in large-scale market economies is you do have a combination of large employers with an employee base that have certain rights and privileges, and that was a traditional pathway. And you have others that are entrepreneurs and people that are basically, and what I worry about is we're moving to a system where everyone is sort of an independent contractor.
Right.
And you've got an ultimate turbocharged fungibility of labor, and I don't know what travels with labor at that point. It's a big question. So I think you can have a lot of different points. And Eric would be there. Eric, any thoughts on that?
No, I think we spent a lot of time talking about national companies and Siemens and CBS and these other companies that are doing great work. But, at the heart of the communities are what small and medium-sized businesses that work every day. And so, they have maybe a need to hire onesies and twosies, right? Or maybe they need somebody to help to sub out for shipping and receiving. So there's a lot of change in the market, which is, I'll go back to my earlier statements, we need to develop some sort of infrastructure for people to get the skills they need to fit into whatever the future brings, whether it's high-tech and advanced manufacturing or, shipping and receiving, fulfillment centers.
And even if you're in a small operation, you can have an apprentice-like experience, if not credentialed at the same level.
As much as we talk about skills, hard skills, occupational skills, there's still quite a demand for foundational skills, basic skills, used to be called soft skills. Secretary Press calls them essential skills. Showing up to work on time, knowing basic math and reading, working together as a team, being a good problem solver. Those skills will always be needed.
How are we doing on that?
It's a struggle.
Yeah.
It's a struggle with a lot of folks out there in the world of work. And it's the constant, since I've been in this business for the last 30 years, it is the constant issue employers always bring up. They talk about the skills gap, but they have always talked about I need people to show up every day on time with a positive attitude, and solve problems and work as a team.
Right, this was one.
Andrew Reamer, professor at George Washington University and member of the Bureau of Labor Statistics Advisory.
Good morning.
Good morning. The role of information in making labor markets work well. My sense is that labor markets are dysfunctional to some degree because of the lack of information, that students and workers don't have full information about occupations in demand or not in demand, and if they choose a career, where to get good training, which among 15 schools that offer nursing degrees in a particular area, which ones are most likely to get their students into paying jobs in that field. In Congress's wisdom in the Workforce Innovation and Opportunities Act, the BO that was just passed a year ago, there was a provision for the secretary, a requirement, mandate for the secretary to create a workforce and labor market information system that enables, which could be through the government and through LinkedIn, that enables students, workers, educators, and employers to have the information that they need to make informed decisions about careers, what to teach, what the demand is.
And what's evolving? Yeah.
What's that?
And what seems to be evolving is opportunity.
Correct. So my question to both of you is: one, what's the role of improving information so that we can at least address what economists call information market failure in big markets? And secondly, for Eric, the implementation of this congressionally mandated workforce labor market information system to enable that.
Great question. Before you sit down, let me just ask you quickly, if you were to jump back 10 years ago, because it sounds like you've been in this business for a while, do you think there has been improvement in that market failure in terms of information and tracking, or is there progress being made because of technology, or is that an illusion?
It's actually both. On the one hand, advanced information technology is enabling the kinds of data that we could only get we couldn't even, it wasn't even on our radar screen 10 years ago, right? The ability to do these big data systems where you can track people's workforce trajectory, career trajectories over time, where you can build these big data systems. So the potential is probably an order of magnitude greater now than it was 10 years ago. On the other hand, Congress regularly turns down budget requests from the Department of Labor, the Census Bureau, and so forth for teeny program improvements, $4 million. Eric runs a program called ONET, which is, many people in the room are probably familiar with ONET, which is it's the classification of jobs and the skills and the tasks involved in them. There's 1,000 jobs in ONET. Congress gives Ericsson enough money to do 100 a year. So it takes a decade to update this thing. It costs $4 million. I mean, that's what
You
Congress
should take this guy around all your.
So Congress is penny wise and pound foolish around this. It'd be great having all that up to date. It's not.
Thank you so much. So we're right at the end. So Susan, give us your quick reaction and Eric.
I couldn't agree more. We need better data. It'll take forever for the government and Congress. We're sitting here, our friends on the Hill. It's going to take forever to do it. LinkedIn has already defined tens of thousands of specific skills and what workers can do. I think the private sector will play a huge role in this and can do it at scale faster. So I have to say, I think the opportunity to collaborate with the private sector on this and get it to happen as soon as we can is very important.
Eric, last word.
I mean, I think that's an excellent question and a set of observations. I think that, there's already a base level of workforce information technology out there. Steve, you pull out your cell phone right now, you can go to a state data system, you put in your zip code, you can find all the jobs that are available within your region, you can find out where to get training, and you can find out other things about that. It doesn't take you to the level that Andrew's talking about, which is a much more sophisticated data matching system that you wrote about in your paper quite eloquently. The Workforce Information Advisory Council, the Secretary is recruiting for that, will be appointing that as part of the act right now. And I think, you just raised so many issues that we could do a whole session, I think, on the need.
I can hang out with you guys all day.
It's just
I'm surprised by that, actually. I thought.
how much does government do? How much does the private sector bring to this? And ONET is a fabulous tool. We have great data sets. Are we using that to the extent we can? And I would follow up.
I'm looking at my colleague Margot Smith, who's coming up, and this is often something I say, but I genuinely mean it. This is so much of a better session than I thought it was going to be.